Hello everyone, my name is Maurilio Matracia and I'm a PhD student at the Communication Theory Lab in KAUST. Today I'm very pleased to present my work on wind turbine mounted base stations for coverage enhancement in rural areas at the IEEE SusTech'2021 student poster contest. So let's get started by overviewing this presentation. After a brief but important explanation of the problem, I will focus on the current solutions proposed in literature before introducing the wind turbine-mounted base station idea. Then we will go through a couple of case studies where we prove the effectiveness of this solution, which might also be applicable to upcoming designs for wind energy harvesting. Finally, we will conclude with some ideas for future works and a video summary that we have prepared for this occasion. Let's start by motivating the problem. So there is a need for global connectivity, which is both a humanitarian and a business opportunity. Currently, indeed, the United Nations are working on 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and global connectivity can contribute much on these directions. However, the low-profit investments are limiting telecom providers in rural areas, and this results in a huge digital divide compared to urban areas, especially in the less developed countries. But what are the current solutions for this problem? Literature works have proposed several options that, basing on the altitude, can provide terrestrial, aerial, or space communications. The conventional solution is to deploy cell towers powered by the electrical grid, if available, or diesel generators, but the cost of digging optical fiber for backhaul is usually excessive for these areas. Renewable energies, on the other hand, are not usually reliable, considering that we want a continuous service. And moreover, generally speaking, cell towers are around 30 meters tall, and hence they offer a small coverage radius. Although actually, Facebook connectivity is currently working on much taller structures that, however, require bulky ropes for their stability. It is believed that aerial base stations, or ABSs, can perform better than conventional solutions, but projects such as the buoyant wind turbine BAT from Alteros have been shut down because of the excessive cost. And also interesting options such as drones that are extremely versatile have still technological limitations such as autonomy and payload capability to overcome. Also, we should consider that they are not very much resilient on for harsh weather conditions. And even if we go with high altitude platforms or hubs, the maintenance is much more complicated, and their autonomy mostly depend on the availability of the sun. This is why even Project Loon by Google has been shut down recently due to such complications. By increasing the altitude, we can even operate from space with low Earth orbit or LEO satellites. Several companies, including SpaceX and Amazon, are currently trying to cover the entire planet, but there are still important issues to consider. For example, satellites can interfere with observation of dangerous asteroids, and there is a high risk of polluting the orbit by creating debris in case of any collision with other objects or satellites themselves. This leads to our suggested solution of wind turbine mounted base stations, for which I will first give an overview, and then I will explain the proposed designs, either in terms of installation and backhauling. Many rural areas already host wind turbines or even wind farms. And wind power generation has been in constant growth worldwide during the last decades. The main advantage of equipping wind turbines with transceivers would be to avoid building a separate telecom infrastructure while achieving considerable heights at low costs. This would conveniently increase the line of sight probability for the surrounding users, eventually improving the quality of the communication channels. Meanwhile, we were working on this project, we have discovered that this idea was already proposed in 2004 by Thomas Sievert, but he never evaluated the improvement it could bring in terms of the performances of the network. So we essentially propose three options for the realization of this idea. The preferred one is to install the equipment inside the nacelle, which is made by radio frequency transparent materials such as fiberglass, in order to avoid any visual pollution or limiting regulations. We can also think of installing it on top of the nacelle to have a better communication channel, or even we can thinking about attaching the transceivers to the tower itself if there are space limitations or any conflicts between telecom and power operators. But in this way, we will not be able to take advantage of the entire height of the wind turbine. Another interesting aspect is the backhaul. So satellite backhauling can help these kind of deployments. For example, it might be convenient to have one satellite dish attached also to one of the wind turbines, maybe the tallest of a wind farm, in order to access the internet via satellite backhaul. Then the surrounding wind turbines might be connected in a star fashion by using millimeter wave or television white space unlicensed spectrum links. In this way, rural mobile user could access the internet by connecting to the base stations attached to any of the equipped wind turbines. And in the same result could be achieved if we wrap optical fiber around existing power lines by means of the new robot designed by Facebook Connectivity. So let's now go through our case studies. We evaluated the performances of the networks in two realistic environments situated in France and Argentina. The first one is a rural area where there are existing wind turbines, but also good potential for new installations. We chose this site because it's quite underconnected compared to the rest of the country. The simulation results show a considerable improvement in terms of the average data rate when taking advantage of the existing wind turbines, or even when adding just 5 new ones to the set of the existing ones. In particular, the average data rate per user jumped from 3.08 to 4.12 to 4.96 megabits per second, respectively in these three cases. We did a similar study for southern Argentina, where the wind potential is huge. So this time we picked a suburban environment where there are very few wind turbines and cell towers. And we mainly proposed new wind turbine-mounted base stations, since the existing wind turbines were pretty close to each other and located in the corner of our area of interest. So the simulation results showed a similar trend with a noticeable improvement from 3.54 to 4.13 Mbps. Another important aspect that we can talk about is the upcoming structures for wind energy harvesting. So vortex bladeless wind oscillators are an interesting design that consists of a cylinder fixed vertically with an elastic rod. The cylinder oscillates and generates electricity through an alternator system, and other bladeless wind generators can offer several advantages over conventional wind turbines, especially in terms of bird safety and noise pollution. So that's why even the Safonian by Safon Energy might even be more appropriate for hosting base stations compared to the conventional wind turbines, since in general bladeless wind generators avoid the problem of possible reflection and scattering of radio signals due to the rotation of the blades themselves. To summarize, we have proved the effectiveness of wind turbine mounted base stations by means of realistic case studies for various environments. So we definitely believe that this solution should be implemented in reality. In future works, the number and locations of the wind turbines could be implemented. for this purpose, and more heterogeneous networks should be considered, maybe including aerial base stations or LEO satellites. It would be also interesting to better evaluate the applicability of this idea to promising and upcoming structures of, for wind energy harvesting, which are mostly bladeless, as I mentioned. So let's now watch this video summary that we have prepared for this presentation. Okay, so again, I'm Maurilio Matracia, and I would like to thank my advisors, Professors Mohamed Slimalouini and Dr. Mustafa Kishk, for the support and for proposing me to join this presentation, this poster contest. And I'm also glad to announce that the content of this presentation will be soon available on archive in a magazine paper fashion. So please contact me for any questions, and thank you very much for your attention.